Hey guys, tonight we're plunging headfirst into a story so wild, it'll make your usual bedtime routine feel like a walk in a very boring park. Imagine, if you will, the oppressive humidity clinging to your skin, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and unseen life, as the relentless symphony of the jungle presses in on all sides. You're deep within the emerald embrace of the Yucatan Peninsula, where ancient trees claw at the sky, their roots a tangled web across the forest floor. Sunlight barely dares to pierce the canopy, leaving the undergrowth in a perpetual twilight, a place where secrets have slumbered for millennia. And tonight, you're right there with a team of archaeologists, your heart thumping a little faster with every machete swing, every rustle in the unseen foliage. This isn't your typical Sunday stroll. If you're not careful, you might just become a permanent part of the local ecosystem. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're pushing through the relentless undergrowth, sweat stinging your eyes, the air so thick it feels like you're swimming through it. The jungle doesn't give up its secrets easily, does it? Every step is a battle against tangled vines and unseen roots, a constant reminder that you're a visitor in a world that thrives on its own terms. The team, a small, dedicated group of archaeologists, moves with a practiced rhythm, their focus unwavering despite the suffocating heat and the ceaseless buzz of insects. They've been following faint anomalies picked up by lidar scans, those magical laser pulses that can see through dense foliage like it's tissue paper, revealing hidden structures beneath. It's like X-ray vision for archaeologists, only way cooler and less likely to give you superpowers. Unfortunately, for weeks, this team has been hacking their way towards what the scans hinted at, a significant, previously unrecorded structure, the Maya, a civilization known for their astounding architectural feats, built entire cities that were later swallowed by the jungle, only to be rediscovered centuries later. This is a mainstream historical fact that never ceases to astound vast urban centers, complete with pyramids, ball courts, and intricate palaces, simply vanished from human memory, leaving only the whispers of their existence in the natural world. Think about that for a second. Imagine if New York City just disappeared, swallowed by an encroaching forest, only to be found by future archaeologists with their super scanners. Gives you a bit of perspective, doesn't it? Suddenly, the lead archaeologist, Dr. Elena Ramirez, holds up a hand, her eyes scanning the dense foliage ahead. There's a subtle shift in the terrain, a faint rise that doesn't quite look natural. You squint, trying to see what she sees, and then it hits you, the faint, geometric lines beneath the moss and dirt. Not just a natural hill, but something shaped, something built. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated awe, the kind that makes all the mosquito bites and the sweat-soaked clothes instantly worth it. This feeling, this quiet thrill of discovery, is what drives them, what drives you in this moment. You move closer, carefully, almost reverently, as the team begins to clear away the thick vegetation, and as the layers of green are peeled back, a low, rectangular mound begins to emerge. Unlike any of the surrounding natural formations, it's not a grand temple, not a sprawling plaza. It's smaller, more intimate, almost hidden. This peculiar absence of monumental scale, especially for a site that would likely house something important, is the first real curveball. Historians still argue whether smaller, isolated structures like this were purely ceremonial, burial sites for specific lineages, or perhaps even secret observatories for less conventional skywatches. It's not always about the biggest pyramid. Sometimes the most intriguing stories are found in the quiet corners. As the clearing continues, you notice something else, a subtle anomaly in the stone itself. It's almost imperceptible, a slight discoloration, a subtle shift in the patterning of the carved blocks. It's a peculiar tidbit, really, something that wouldn't stand out to the untrained eye. It looks almost seamless, as if the jungle had grown around it without ever really touching it. Or as if it had been deliberately hidden from plain sight, almost as if the very stone was trying to blend into the surrounding forest. Maybe it's just the light, or the fatigue, but it feels different. You half expect to see a trapdoor spring open, or a secret passage reveal itself with a dramatic puff of smoke, like in some old adventure movie. But no, this is real, and the jungle isn't quite so theatrical. Yet, you're standing there, dust motes dancing in the meager shafts of light that pierce the canopy, and you can practically feel the weight of history pressing down on you. This isn't just a pile of old rocks, it's a testament to a civilization that, for centuries, was the undisputed intellectual powerhouse of Mesoamerica. We're talking about the Maya folks, not the Aztecs, not the Inca, though they're cool in their own right, but the Maya. They weren't an empire in the same vein as Rome, with a single emperor ruling over vast territories. Instead, it was a network of independent city-states, each with its own ruler, its own political alliances and rivalries, all sharing a remarkably consistent culture, language, and belief system. It's like ancient Greece, but with more jaguar gods and fewer toga parties. Their achievements, frankly, are mind-boggling. You probably learned in school about their sophisticated writing system, hieroglyphs so intricate they look like miniature works of art, or their mind-bendingly accurate calendar, far more precise than anything in Europe at the time. This isn't just mainstream historical fact, it's the kind of stuff that makes you wonder if they had some secret internet connection to the future. They were astronomers who could predict eclipses with chilling accuracy, mathematicians who developed the concept of zero independently, and architects who built pyramids that still defy belief, rising from the jungle like petrified mountains. Imagine trying to get a building permit for a 200-foot tall pyramid today, let alone actually constructing it with nothing but stone tools and sheer willpower. You'd probably get laughed out of the zoning office. As you stand before this newly uncovered structure, a low, rectangular mound, you can almost hear the echoes of a lost empire. The Maya flourished for thousands of years, with their classic period generally cited as roughly 250 to 900 CE. During this time, cities like Tikal, Palenque, and Copan bustled with life, trade, and ritual. But then, for reasons still fiercely debated by historians, many of the great southern lowland cities experienced a dramatic decline, what scholars call the classic Maya collapse. Some blame prolonged drought, others point to endemic warfare, overpopulation, or even the depletion of resources. Historians still argue whether a single catastrophic event or a confluence of gradual factors led to their decline. It's one of those ancient mysteries that keeps archaeologists up at night, probably scrolling through Reddit threads about conspiracy theories. Just like us, this particular mound, however, feels different from the grand structures of those well-known cities. It's understated, almost humble, which makes it even more intriguing. It's not screaming for attention, it's just there. The local indigenous guides, who have an intimate knowledge of this land, speak in hushed tones, sharing old stories passed down through generations. One quirky tidbit they share involves whispers of hidden places deep within the jungle. Not necessarily grand temples, but smaller, more sacred spots, sometimes guarded by unseen spirits or peculiar natural phenomena. They talk of trees that hum, or certain stones that feel warm to the touch, even on a cold night. It's the kind of folklore that most modern scientists would dismiss. But out here, surrounded by the ancient silence, it adds another layer to the mystery. You run your hand over the rough, moss-covered stone of the mound, feeling the cool, damp surface. It's solid, undeniably ancient. This isn't some natural outcropping, it's clearly man-made, but with a subtlety that almost makes it invisible. The Maya were masters of camouflage, not just for warfare, but for integrating their structures seamlessly into the natural landscape. They understood the earth, the sky, the rhythm of the seasons, and their architecture reflected that deep connection. You can almost picture the ancient Maya, centuries ago, meticulously placing each stone, not just to build a structure, but to create a harmonious extension of the world around them. It's a stark contrast to how we build today, where we mostly just plop down concrete boxes wherever there's space, often completely ignoring the natural flow of the land. They had an environmental consciousness centuries before it became a hashtag. As the team continues to clear the area, revealing more of the mound's outline, you realize this is no ordinary discovery. The LiDAR scans hinted at a structure. Yes, but the sheer effort the jungle has made to reclaim it, to swallow it whole, speaks volumes about its age and its isolation. This isn't on any map. It's not in any academic paper. It's a fresh slate, a clean page in the ancient history book of the Maya, waiting for you to turn it. And the more you uncover, the more the subtle oddities begin to surface, hinting that what lies beneath this mound might just defy everything you thought you knew about this incredible civilization. The air is thick with anticipation now, a palpable hum that crackles beneath the drone of the jungle. You're no longer just observing, you're part of the team, kneeling in the soft, rich earth, carefully brushing away centuries of accumulated detritus. Every scoop of soil, every gentle sweep of the brush, feels like uncovering a tiny piece of a vast, ancient jigsaw puzzle. The mound, once a subtle rise, now reveals itself as a low, elongated structure, crafted from rough-hewn limestone blocks. It's not adorned with the elaborate stucco masks or intricate carvings you might expect from a grand Mayan temple. Instead, it possesses a stark, almost brutalist simplicity. This unadorned facade is another curious departure from the norm, a subtle eyebrow raise in the archaeological world. The process of excavation is excruciatingly slow, a testament to patience and methodical precision. You learn quickly that archaeology isn't about dramatic Indiana Jones-style booby traps and giant rolling boulders, though a good fedora is always in style. Right, it's about careful documentation, about mapping every single stone, every shard of pottery, every organic remnant before it's moved. This meticulous approach is how mainstream historical facts are established, piecing together the daily lives, beliefs, and ultimate fates of ancient civilizations from the tiniest fragments. For example, the precise dating of Mayan structures often relies on identifying specific pottery styles or the presence of volcanic ash layers from known eruptions, allowing archaeologists to construct a remarkably detailed chronology of their world. As you continue to clear the area around the base, the team discovers something truly remarkable: a narrow, almost invisible seam in the stonework. Unlike anything seen on other Mayan structures, it's not a door, not an obvious entrance. It's more like a cleverly disguised fault line, running along the base of the mound, almost flush with the surrounding stone. One of the geophysicists, Dr. Chen, points out that the magnetic readings around this seam are unusually low, almost as if the stone itself has been somehow altered or demagnetized in this specific area. This is definitely a quirky or fringe tidbit, the kind that makes you wonder if ancient stonemasons had some secret tricks up their sleeves that involved more than just brute force and chisels. Were they trying to hide this tomb from something specific? Or perhaps protect it in a way we don't yet understand? The team speculates. Is it a ceremonial closure? A way to seal off something so sacred it should never be disturbed? Or is it a sophisticated method of preventing grave robbing? Something the Maya, like many ancient cultures, were notoriously concerned about. Historians still argue whether the elaborate burials found in many Mayan pyramids were solely for the divine ruler or also served as a kind of public display of power and lineage for the living. This tomb, however, feels profoundly private, almost intensely hidden. It wasn't meant for public view, which sets it apart from many known royal interments. Using specialized tools, delicate and precise, the team begins to carefully separate the blocks along this almost invisible seam. There's no dramatic lever or hidden button, just painstaking, millimeters at a time work. The tension is palpable. Every faint creak of shifting stone, every whisper of dust falling, makes you hold your breath. It's like watching a high-stakes surgery, where one wrong move could jeopardize everything. You can feel the combined weight of centuries of silence pressing down. And the sudden urge to sneeze, of course. Because that's just how life works when you're trying to be reverent. Finally, with a soft, almost imperceptible grind, a section of the stone wall slowly, agonizingly, begins to pivot inward, revealing a gap, a sliver of profound darkness. The air that rushes out isn't stale or dusty. It's something else entirely. It carries a faint, earthy aroma, but also something metallic, something cold. It's like the very breath of antiquity, exhaled after 1,000 years. This isn't just an opening. It feels like a wound in time. You peer into the blackness, a darkness so absolute it seems to absorb all light, and your mind races, conjuring images of ancient rituals, forgotten kings, and untold treasures. But what if it's not treasure? What if it's something far stranger, far more baffling than gold or jade? The jungle waits, silent, as you prepare to take that first, tentative step into the unknown. As the section of stone pivots fully inward, revealing a true entrance, the profound darkness inside seems to pulse, almost daring you to step into it. The faint, cold scent is stronger now, less earthy, more metallic and something else. Something undefinable, like the smell of very old air. You reach for your headlamp, clicking it on, and the beam slices through the absolute blackness, revealing a narrow, descending passage. It's not grand, not ceremonial in the way you might expect from a royal Mayan tomb. Instead, it feels utilitarian, almost secretive, like a forgotten backdoor to eternity. You step forward, your boots crunching softly on loose debris. The air is surprisingly cool, a stark contrast to the oppressive jungle heat outside, which feels like you just walked into a very efficient, ancient air conditioning system. Powered by, well, probably not Freon. The walls of the passage are rough, unadorned limestone, but there's a subtle smoothness to certain sections, as if countless hands have brushed against them over centuries. It's a sensory experience that's hard to put into words. The cool air, the muted sound of your own breathing, the intense, almost tangible silence that presses in. Mainstream historical fact reminds us that Mayan tombs, especially those of high-ranking individuals, were often elaborate affairs, filled with jade, shell, and pottery, designed to accompany the deceased into the underworld. The famous tomb of Pakal the Great at Palenque, for instance, is a masterpiece of art and architecture, covered in intricate carvings depicting his journey to Xibalba, the Mayan underworld. But this passage, this feels different. It lacks the overt pomp, the clear declarations of status. It's almost unassuming, which, in archaeology, is often a sign that you're about to stumble onto something truly extraordinary. It's like finding a secret speakeasy in an alleyway instead of a grand ballroom. The best secrets are always hidden. As you descend further, the passage widens slightly, leading into a single, surprisingly compact chamber. Your headlamp beam sweeps across the space, revealing walls that are not carved, but instead painted with faded, almost ghostly murals. The colors are muted, ochre, deep red, and a surprising, almost luminous blue, but the imagery is unsettling. It's not the typical depictions of maze gods or mythical serpents. Instead, you see stylized figures that are tall and gaunt, with elongated limbs and eyes that seem to stare back at you from the ancient pigments. This is definitely a quirky or fringe tidbit. These figures don't quite fit the standard iconography found in other Mayan sites. They feel alien, perhaps, or from a branch of Mayan art that has simply been lost to time. It's a bit like finding a Picasso in a cave painting, unexpected and a little disorienting. The air in the chamber is eerily still, so quiet that you can hear the faint buzz of your headlamp. There's a distinct absence of the natural ventilation you might expect, which is unusual for a Mayan structure designed to last centuries. Historians still argue whether the Maya deliberately designed some of their smaller, hidden chambers to have extremely limited air circulation for preservation purposes, or if it was simply a byproduct of their building techniques. Here, it feels intentional, as if the chamber was meant to be a sealed vault, protected from the ravages of time and the elements. In the center of the chamber, illuminated by your beam, rests a single, large sarcophagus. It's not carved from the typical pale limestone. Instead, it appears to be fashioned from a darker, almost obsidian-like stone, incredibly smooth and reflecting the light in a way that gives it an almost liquid appearance. There are no obvious inscriptions or carvings on its surface, only this unsettling, mirror-like sheen. It stands alone, silent, a profound statement in the quiet chamber. The air seems to thicken around it, and you feel a strange sense of reverence, mixed with an undeniable shiver down your spine. This isn't just an archaeological find. It feels like you stumbled into a moment frozen in time. A sacred space undisturbed for a millennium. You approach it slowly, your breath held, knowing that what lies within this dark sarcophagus might just rewrite everything we thought we knew. The obsidian-like sarcophagus dominates the small, hidden chamber, its dark, reflective surface an unnerving contrast to the faded murals. It's almost unsettlingly pristine, considering the centuries it has lain here undisturbed. You circle it slowly, your headlamp beam dancing across its smooth expanse, revealing no seams, no visible lids, no obvious way to open it. It feels less like a traditional coffin and more like a sealed vault. An inscrutable black box designed to keep its contents eternally hidden. You can almost hear your own heartbeat in the profound silence. Mainstream historical fact dictates that Mayan sarcophagi, when discovered, usually bear intricate carvings on their lids or sides, detailing the life, lineage, or divine connections of the interred. Take the famous sarcophagus of Janab, Pakal for example. Its massive lid is a stunning masterpiece depicting his descent into the underworld and rebirth. It's a literal comic book of a ruler's journey to the afterlife. This one, however, is a blank slate, offering no clues, no pronouncements of who lies within. It's like finding a book with no title or author, which, for an archaeologist, is either incredibly frustrating or incredibly exciting, depending on how much coffee you've had. Dr. Elena Ramirez, her face a mask of intense concentration, runs a gloved hand along the cool, polished surface. She points out a subtle, almost imperceptible undulation in the stone, a ripple that seems to catch the light in an odd way. It's not perfectly flat, she murmurs, her voice barely a whisper, almost organic. This observation is a peculiar tidbit. The Maya were renowned for their precise stone carving, and such an irregularity would be highly unusual for a structure of this perceived importance. It's as if the stone itself has a slight, deliberate curve, a form that doesn't quite conform to strict geometric principles. You wonder if it's a natural vein in the rock, or if it was intentionally crafted that way. For reasons unknown, perhaps the ancient Maya had a sense of aesthetics that went beyond what we typically understand. Or maybe they just had a slightly wobbly ruler that day. The team brings in a portable imaging device, a kind of high-tech sonar designed to peer through dense materials without disturbing them. You watch the screen intently as the waves penetrate the dark stone. The initial scans are met with collective gasps. Inside, there's clearly a chamber, an interior void, but the readings are odd. They don't show the distinct, sharp lines of human remains or typical grave goods. Instead, the images are blurred, almost diffuse, as if the contents are somehow resisting the scan. Or perhaps, aren't quite solid in the way one would expect. Historians still argue whether certain ancient civilizations possessed knowledge of materials or energies that could interfere with modern technology, with some fringe theories suggesting unique forms of energy-blocking minerals or even psychic shielding. It's a fun thought, even if it usually ends up being a bad sensor calibration. The absence of a clear lid is perhaps the most baffling aspect. There's no obvious seam, no indication of how this massive, polished stone was opened, or if it was even meant to be opened after it was sealed. It's an engineering puzzle that speaks volumes about the advanced techniques of the Maya. Or at least, this specific group of Maya. Was it slid into place from below? Was it lowered from above and then sealed with some sort of ancient, mystical super glue? The questions pile up faster than your laundry on a Sunday night. The team discusses options, their voices low and urgent. To break the sarcophagus open would be an act of archaeological sacrilege. Destroying invaluable data, they need to find its secret, its unlocking mechanism. You notice Dr. Ramirez tracing a pattern on the smooth surface. Almost unconsciously, it's not a carving, but a slight variation in the texture, visible only when the light catches it just right. It's almost like a fingerprint, a subtle swirl that seems to repeat. Could this be a clue? Could this incredibly subtle, almost non-existent pattern be the key to unlocking a millennia-old secret? The very air in the chamber seems to thicken with the unspoken question. A silent challenge from the past. You lean closer, your breath held, as the true mystery of this untouched tomb begins to unfold, one baffling detail at a time. With the sarcophagus stubbornly refusing to yield its secrets, the team shifts focus, realizing that a frontal assault isn't the answer. Instead, they begin to meticulously examine the faint, almost ethereal murals on the chamber walls. Your headlamp sweeps across the faded pigments, revealing more of the unnerving figures, slender, elongated bodies, heads disproportionately large, and those unnervingly wide, black eyes. They're standing, or perhaps floating, amidst abstract shapes that could be stars, nebulae, or something far more esoteric. This is where the real head-scratching begins. Mainstream historical fact shows that Mayan art is rich with recognizable deities, historical figures, and cosmological symbols. You'd expect to see the feathered serpent god Kukulkan, or the maize god, or perhaps scenes of ritual bloodletting or ballgames. But these figures, they defy categorization. They don't fit any known iconography from the vast corpus of Mayan art. It's like finding a spaceship blueprint in a medieval illuminated manuscript. Historians still argue whether certain isolated Mayan communities developed unique artistic styles far removed from the mainstream, or if these images hint at influences from cultures unknown, perhaps even contact with entities beyond the mundane. Dr. Chen, the geophysicist, brings over a portable X-ray fluorescence (XRF) analyzer, a fancy device that can identify the chemical composition of pigments without touching them. The results are startling. While some of the base pigments, red ochre, carbon black, are typical for the period, the distinctive blue pigment, often called Maya blue, shows an unusual trace element profile. It contains a higher concentration of a specific rare earth mineral than is typical for Maya blue, which was traditionally a mix of indigo dyes and palygorskite clay. This is a quirky tidbit. This specific mineral, usually found deep within volcanic rock formations, shouldn't be present in such quantities unless it was deliberately sourced from a very specific, remote location, or perhaps synthesized through a process we don't understand. It's almost as if they were trying to give the blue figures an extra special glow. Or maybe it was just the only blue pigment they had that day. As the team analyzes the composition, your eyes keep returning to the sarcophagus. The sonar scans, remember, were vague, diffuse. Now, with more detailed microseismic sensors, they start to piece together a clearer picture of what's inside. The initial readings were indeed baffling because the contents aren't what anyone expected. It's not a single, articulated skeleton. Instead, the scans reveal multiple, intertwined forms, as if several individuals are interred together. But the forms themselves are distorted, elongated in places, with skeletal densities that don't quite match typical human bone structure. It's incredibly unsettling. You trace the outline of one of the figures on the sonar screen. The head, in particular, seems unnaturally large, and the limbs too long for a standard human. Could it be a family burial? Perhaps of individuals with some genetic peculiarity? Or is it something else entirely? The images on the wall, those strange, tall figures with their wide eyes, suddenly seem to mirror the distorted forms within the sarcophagus. The connection, however tenuous, sends a shiver down your spine. The air in the chamber, once cool, seems to have grown heavier, almost oppressive. There's a faint, sweet smell now, too, distinct from the initial metallic tang. It's subtle, like very old flowers or dried herbs. But it wasn't there before. Perhaps it's just the chamber reacting to the increased air circulation. Or maybe it's something released from the ancient contents as the team works. You try to rationalize it, to find a logical explanation, but the sheer strangeness of the situation begins to gnaw at you. This isn't just an untouched tomb, it's a Pandora's box of archaeological anomalies. The team begins to discuss the implications in hushed, excited tones. If these are indeed multiple individuals, and if their skeletal structures are truly anomalous, it would challenge fundamental assumptions about Mayan populations. Could this be evidence of a specific, perhaps isolated, lineage with unique physical characteristics? Or, more wildly, could it be something else entirely, something that belongs in the realm of science fiction rather than historical fact? The silence of the tomb seems to hold its breath, waiting for you to unearth the truth, one baffling detail at a time. The air in the chamber, once cool and still, now feels charged with an almost electric tension. Your gaze keeps flicking from the distorted sonar images of the sarcophagus contents to the eerie figures on the wall. The longer you look at them, the more those elongated limbs and outsized heads seem to resonate with the baffling forms detected within the dark stone. This isn't just a tomb, it's a puzzle box of skeletal surprises. The team, now fully engrossed, carefully begins to catalogue the few grave goods visible outside the sarcophagus, placed meticulously around its base. These aren't the opulent jade masks or elaborate pottery vessels that commonly accompany high-status Mayan burials, a mainstream historical fact you'd find in any textbook. Instead, the offerings are sparse, almost minimalist, and undeniably strange. There are no gold ornaments, no intricate textiles. First, you spot a collection of polished, black obsidian blades. Obsidian was indeed a prized material for cutting tools and ceremonial objects in ancient Mesoamerica, known for its razor-sharp edge. However, these blades are unusually long and slender, almost impossibly thin, and they gleam with an unnatural sheen, as if they've been buffed with some unknown compound. They don't appear to be for practical use. Given their fragility, could they be symbolic, perhaps meant for a ritual we don't understand? Or maybe they were just for really precise ancient manicures. Next to the blades, arranged in a precise geometric pattern, are several small, intricately carved spheres made of a dark, crystalline material. They pulse faintly under your headlamp, catching the light in a way that suggests an internal luminescence. You reach out, your fingers hovering inches above one. It feels cool, almost cold, to the touch, and there's a subtle, almost imperceptible vibration emanating from it. This is definitely a quirky tidbit. No known Mayan artifacts match these descriptions. They don't resemble jade, quartz, or any other commonly worked stone. Some fringe theories suggest ancient civilizations experimented with crystalline technologies for energy or communication. Though usually, these theories are about as solid as a chocolate teapot. Yet, here they are, undeniably real, and undeniably baffling. Dr. Elena Ramirez picks up one of the spheres. Examining it closely, the density is unusual, she murmurs, and the surface isn't carved. It appears to be naturally formed, yet perfectly spherical. Historians still argue whether some of the advanced geometric shapes found in ancient artifacts were achieved purely through manual labor and keen eyes, or if they hint at a deeper understanding of mathematical principles or even natural crystallography that has since been lost. These spheres certainly lean towards the latter. Scattered amongst the spheres are small, metallic discs, corroded with age but still retaining a faint, iridescent glimmer. They are thin, about the size of a coin, and seem to be made of an alloy that doesn't immediately match known Mayan metallurgical techniques, which primarily focused on copper and gold. These discs are too light for typical metals, yet too rigid for anything organic. You wonder if they were once part of a larger mechanism, or perhaps a form of currency, though they bear no clear markings. The total absence of typical Mayan pottery, even fragments, is another significant anomaly. Pottery is the bread and butter of archaeological dating and cultural identification. Its complete lack here is striking. It's like finding a modern house with no Tupperware, almost impossible. This suggests either a culture distinct from the mainstream Maya in their burial practices, or a specific, very unusual context for this tomb. As you document each peculiar artifact, a sense of profound mystery deepens. These are not the familiar trappings of a Mayan elite. They're alien, almost, in their context, and their function is utterly unknown. They speak of a belief system, or perhaps a practical application, that exists far outside the established understanding of Mayan civilization. Every object you log seems to ask more questions than it answers, pulling you further down a rabbit hole of speculation. What did these objects mean to the individuals interred here? And more importantly, what do they tell us about who was interred here? The truth, you suspect, is far stranger than any fiction. The peculiar artifacts around the sarcophagus are one thing, but your attention is continually drawn back to the chamber walls, to the faded, unsettling murals. They aren't just decorative, they are clearly narrative, though the story they tell is utterly alien. The archaeologists have now brought in specialized cameras and lighting to capture every last detail before the delicate pigments potentially degrade further. You join them, meticulously photographing sections, the faint outlines of glyphs gradually becoming discernible amongst the abstract, almost swirling backgrounds. Mayan hieroglyphs are a mainstream historical fact, a complex and beautiful writing system that combines logograms, symbols representing words, and syllabograms, symbols representing sounds. They recorded everything from royal lineages and military victories to astronomical observations and religious rituals. Deciphering them has been one of the great archaeological triumphs of the last century, giving us an unparalleled insight into their world. But these glyphs, these are different. As you zoom in with the camera, a disturbing realization dawns. While some of the glyphs bear a superficial resemblance to known Mayan script, a familiar curl here, a recognizable dot there, many are profoundly anomalous. They feature angular, almost mechanical forms interwoven with the organic, a stark departure from the fluid, naturalistic style of typical Mayan writing. It's like finding a circuit diagram drawn into a medieval manuscript. Dr. Ramirez, her brow furrowed in deep concentration, points to a sequence that seems to defy all known grammatical structures of Mayan languages. It's as if, she whispers, they're trying to communicate something entirely new, or in an entirely new way. This is a quintessential quirky tidbit. There have been fringe theories about Proto-Mayan, or pre-Columbian, scripts that never entered the mainstream, or even secret languages known only to certain priestly castes. But this isn't just a dialect. It feels like a different language altogether, or at least a highly esoteric variant. Some of the symbols seem to subtly shift, almost imperceptibly, when viewed from different angles, creating an optical illusion. It's like a magical eye puzzle, but instead of finding a dolphin, you're trying to figure out if you're looking at a bird or a really grumpy alien. The content of the decipherable glyphs, even the few recognizable ones, is equally baffling. Instead of dates or names of rulers, they speak of the void beyond, the watches from above, and the great transition. There are repeated references to cycles, not of time as understood by the Mayan calendar, but of something far grander, almost cosmic. One sequence, partially translated by a Maya epigrapher working remotely, speaks of a journey through the fabric of reality, and mentions a sacred resonance that guided them. Historians still argue whether certain ancient texts, across various cultures, contained veiled references to advanced knowledge or abstract scientific concepts, perhaps disguised as mythology or religious dogma, or if such interpretations are merely modern projections onto ancient beliefs. Here, the line feels incredibly blurred. The unsettling figures on the murals seem to be interacting with these strange glyphs, their elongated fingers pointing to specific symbols as if in explanation or reverence. Their wide, dark eyes, so prominent in the artwork, seem to be a recurring motif in the glyphs themselves, represented by a circular symbol with a central dot, almost like a pupil. It gives you the distinct impression that these watchers are key to understanding the entire message of the tomb. You feel a growing sense of unease, a cold prickle on your skin. This isn't just about archaeological discovery anymore. It feels like you're staring directly into the heart of an ancient enigma. The carefully preserved silence of the tomb, maintained for centuries, now seems to be whispering secrets that were never meant for mortal ears. Every stroke of the brush, every strange symbol, adds another layer to the baffling mystery, suggesting a Mayan culture far more complex, and perhaps far more other, than anyone ever dared to imagine. What ancient knowledge, what profound secrets, were they trying to preserve within these walls, locked away behind a language that barely makes sense? The strange glyphs and the alien figures painted on the walls reverberate in your mind, creating a dissonant chorus against everything you thought you knew about the Maya. You're no longer simply an observer, you're an active participant in a growing academic earthquake. The evidence piling up, the anomalous skeletal structures within the sarcophagus, the peculiar grave goods, and now these indecipherable, unsettling glyphs, all point to one startling conclusion: this tomb, and perhaps its occupants, stand outside the established narrative of the Mayan civilization. Mainstream historical fact emphasizes the incredible cultural homogeneity across the vast network of Mayan city-states. Despite their political independence, shared writing systems, religious practices, artistic styles, and architectural conventions provided a recognizable framework. When archaeologists discover a site, they can usually place it within known periods and regional styles with relative confidence. But this tomb, it's a rogue wave in a calm sea. It's like finding a spaceship in a barn full of horse-drawn carriages. The team has now brought in Dr. Anya Sharma, a renowned expert in obscure Mesoamerican languages, via satellite link. Her initial reaction to the transmitted images of the glyphs is a mixture of profound excitement and outright bewilderment. These aren't just dialectical variations, she states, her voice crackling slightly through the speaker. This is structurally distinct. It suggests a linguistic branch we've never encountered, perhaps a completely isolated group that developed independently, or preserved an archaic form of the language that predates the classic Maya we know. This is a profoundly quirky tidbit. Imagine finding a hidden tribe speaking a lost form of Latin that sounds nothing like modern Romance languages. It's a linguistic Rosetta Stone that needs its own Rosetta Stone. This leads to the obvious, unsettling question: are these even Maya as we understand them? Historians still argue whether certain remote groups on the periphery of the established Mayan heartland developed unique cultural characteristics, sometimes diverging significantly from the mainstream due to geographic isolation or specific ideological beliefs. But this isn't on the periphery. It's deep within traditional Mayan territory, making its distinctness even more perplexing. Could this tomb belong to a subgroup that actively sought to differentiate itself, or even hide from, the larger Mayan society? You recall the inconspicuous nature of the mound itself, how it blended seamlessly into the jungle, almost as if designed to remain undiscovered. Combine that with the hidden entrance, the lack of overt grandiosity, and the non-standard artifacts, and a picture begins to emerge. This was a secret, not just a burial, but a deliberately concealed repository of something or someone profoundly unusual. Perhaps they were reclusive scholars, an esoteric cult, or even a community that experienced some form of profound environmental or social upheaval that forced them to adapt in ways that alienated them from their contemporaries. The unsettling figures on the murals, those tall, gaunt beings with their wide, dark eyes, start to take on a new significance. If the occupants of the sarcophagus truly possess anomalous skeletal structures, as the sonar scans suggest, then these murals might not be mythological representations at all. What if they are portraits? What if they are depictions of the very people interred within this baffling tomb? a visual record of the unique physical traits or even their origins. The thought sends a shiver down your spine, a mix of awe and a primal sense of unease. It's one thing to read about ancient peoples. It's another to confront the possibility that some of them might not have been entirely human as we define it. The very air in the chamber seems to hum with unspoken possibilities. The weight of centuries of silence broken by the whispers of unimaginable truths. You're standing at the precipice of a discovery that could fundamentally reshape not just our understanding of the Maya, but potentially the very history of human civilization in Mesoamerica. The question isn't just who they were, but what they knew, and why they chose to hide it so meticulously from the world. The profound strangeness of the sarcophagus contents and the murals now casts a new, unsettling light on the few objects found outside the dark, smooth stone coffin. These weren't just random burial gifts, they were profoundly deliberate, echoing the bizarre nature of the interred and the cryptic messages on the walls. You return to the meticulously arranged black obsidian blades and the small, luminescent crystalline spheres, examining them with renewed scrutiny. Mainstream historical fact demonstrates that Mayan grave goods often served practical purposes in the afterlife or symbolized the deceased's status and connections to the divine. Think of the utilitarian pottery for food and drink, or jade for its sacred connection to maize and eternity. These artifacts, however, feel less about ritual and more about function, albeit a function utterly unknown to us. The incredibly thin obsidian blades, for instance, are too delicate for cutting anything mundane. One theory now emerging among the team is that they might have been part of some specialized ancient instrument, perhaps used for delicate surgical procedures or even for interacting with the mysterious crystalline spheres. It's a leap, certainly, but a necessary one when faced with such an archaeological anomaly. Those crystalline spheres, remember, that pulsate faintly and feel cold to the touch. Dr. Chen's subsequent analyses have revealed an even more baffling quirky tidbit. They are composed of a highly ordered, non-terrestrial crystalline structure. While pure, naturally occurring crystals can be found, these spheres exhibit an internal regularity and purity that surpasses natural formation, hinting at artificial synthesis or manipulation at an atomic level. Furthermore, they emit a very faint, irregular low-frequency hum, undetectable by the human ear but picked up by specialized sensors. It's the kind of sound you'd imagine a very old, very tired alien computer makes. Historians still argue whether some ancient cultures possessed an intuitive or empirical understanding of physics that allowed them to harness natural phenomena in ways that appear almost magical to us. Or if such claims are merely the wishful thinking of modern enthusiasts projecting onto the past. The metallic discs, thin and iridescent, have also undergone further scrutiny. They are not merely corroded, their composition reveals an alloy of metals, including trace amounts of a surprisingly pure aluminum, a metal exceedingly difficult to extract and process with ancient technology. The faint iridescence, moreover, comes from an unusual surface coating, almost like an ancient form of anodizing. What were these for? Were they components of a larger device? Perhaps a form of ancient data storage, like a really, really durable floppy disk? The possibilities are endless, and equally improbable given the time period. You suppress a giggle at the thought of ancient Maya trying to debug a metallic disk. The complete absence of common Mayan ceremonial objects, no incense burners, no ceramic figurines, no stingray spines for bloodletting rituals, reinforces the idea that this burial was profoundly different. It speaks of a different set of beliefs, a different technological understanding, or a completely different purpose for the interment. It's almost as if the individuals buried here rejected the common practices of their time, or simply didn't need them. Perhaps their afterlife, or their understanding of existence, transcended the earthly concerns of typical Mayan cosmology. You pick up one of the obsidian blades, feeling its impossible sharpness. It's a sobering thought that this object, perfectly preserved, has waited here for centuries for someone to find it, someone to try and understand its purpose. The silence of the tomb, once so absolute, now seems to hum with the low frequency emanating from the crystals. A subtle, almost imperceptible whisper of ancient knowledge that defies all known categories. The more you learn about these baffling artifacts, the less you feel you understand, and the more profound the mystery becomes. What were these offerings truly for? Were they tools, symbols, or something far beyond our current comprehension? The tomb holds its breath, waiting for the answers to slowly, painfully, reveal themselves. The air in the chamber feels thick with an almost tangible sense of mystery, each discovery only deepening the enigma. As you ponder the bewildering grave goods, your gaze drifts to the construction of the tomb itself. It's not just the subtle, almost invisible entrance or the unadorned walls. There are aspects of its construction that challenge conventional understanding of Mayan engineering capabilities. This is where the term technological marvels or magic truly applies. Mainstream historical fact asserts that the Maya were masters of dry stack masonry, using precisely cut and fitted stones without mortar, relying on gravity and careful calibration for stability. Their pyramids and temples have stood for over 1,000 years, a testament to their skill. But this tomb exhibits something else. Around the pivot point of the entrance stone, and in several key load-bearing sections within the chamber walls, the stone surfaces are fused with an almost glassy finish, as if the limestone has been briefly melted and then re-solidified. There are no scorch marks, no signs of intense heat or fire, just this seamless, almost molecular bond between the blocks. It's as if they poured stone into place. But stone doesn't just pour, does it? Dr. Chen, the geophysicist, has brought in a portable microscanner, which uses high-frequency sound waves to map the internal structure of materials. The scans reveal that at these fused points, the crystal structure of the limestone is indeed altered, almost realigned, and interspersed with microscopic filaments of an unknown, non-organic material. This is a genuinely quirky or fringe tidbit. It's not a mortar, not a cement. It's a transformation of the stone itself, perhaps using a localized, incredibly intense heat source or some form of ancient geopolymerization that has no known parallel in Mayan technology. It's like finding a perfectly welded steel beam in an Iron Age smithy. Historians still argue whether some ancient cultures had lost technologies that transcended their supposed capabilities, with some theories even involving obscure chemical processes or focused sound waves used to manipulate stone. Though most academics remain highly skeptical, often pointing to more mundane, yet ingenious, solutions. The chamber's acoustics are another strange phenomenon. When someone speaks, their voice doesn't echo or reverberate as it would in a typical stone chamber. Instead, it seems to be subtly dampened, almost absorbed. The sound quality is remarkably flat, devoid of resonance. It's as if the walls themselves are acoustically treated. This could be a byproduct of the unusual fusion technique, or perhaps an intentional design choice. Was it meant to create a space of absolute silence, undisturbed by outside noises? Or was it to contain certain frequencies, maybe even the hum emanating from the crystalline spheres? You half expect to see ancient soundproofing foam, which, let's be honest, would be peak Mayan innovation. Even the sarcophagus itself, with its impossibly smooth, obsidian-like material, defies easy explanation. While natural obsidian can be polished, achieving such a flawless, large, and perfectly formed dark stone without visible seams, especially one that reflects light in such a peculiar way, is an incredible feat. Some initial speculation among the team suggests it might not be natural obsidian at all, but rather a form of ancient geopolymer, or a highly refined vitrified substance, potentially heated to extreme temperatures in a way we don't understand, or even poured into a mold. Imagine trying to make a giant, seamless glass coffin with stone tools. It's practically science fiction. The engineering anomalies are not just isolated incidents, they are consistent throughout the tomb's construction, pointing to a deliberate and sophisticated application of techniques beyond what is typically attributed to the Maya. It suggests a knowledge base that veered sharply from the standard architectural practices of the time. This isn't just clever building. It feels like an entirely different school of thought. You can't help but wonder if the strange skeletal forms within the sarcophagus, and the equally strange technology used to entomb them, are inextricably linked. The baffling nature of the construction methods suggests a civilization, or at least a highly specialized subset of it, that possessed secrets far more profound than mere stone carving. The air in the chamber, once cool and still, now feels almost electric with the sheer weight of unanswered questions. The more you examine the baffling construction and the enigmatic artifacts, the more you realize this tomb isn't just about a hidden burial. It's a repository of forgotten knowledge. A silent library of secrets. What could these ancient Maya, or whatever branch of them constructed this place, have known that we don't? Mainstream historical fact acknowledges the Maya as brilliant astronomers, mathematicians, and calendric experts. They tracked planetary movements with incredible accuracy, developed complex systems of numbers, and created a calendar that was astonishingly precise for its time, predicting celestial events centuries into the future. They had an advanced understanding of cycles, both earthly and cosmic. But the knowledge suggested by this tomb feels like a different order of magnitude, transcending even their known intellectual prowess. Consider the crystalline spheres found among the grave goods. Those enigmatic objects that hum faintly and possess an ordered, non-terrestrial structure. Could they be more than mere offerings? Could they be devices, perhaps, that stored information, or amplified certain frequencies, or even functioned as some form of communication? This is a delightful quirky tidbit that sparks the imagination. Imagine if these spheres were like ancient USB drives, holding entire libraries of data about their creators, their world, or even the void beyond, mentioned in the strange glyphs. Perhaps they were even used to manipulate the very stone of the tomb, or to generate the unusual sound dampening effect. It's like finding a smartphone in a Roman villa. You'd immediately question everything you thought you knew about Roman technology. The strange glyphs on the walls, remember, spoke of the watches from above, and a journey through the fabric of reality. While many ancient cultures had creation myths involving sky beings or journeys to other realms, these particular references, combined with the other anomalies, seem to hint at a more literal, perhaps even scientific, interpretation. Historians still argue whether certain mythological narratives in ancient texts are purely metaphorical, or if they contain veiled references to actual historical events, astronomical observations, or even technological understanding that later became obscured or misunderstood. Here, the sheer specificity of the language, despite its strangeness, feels less like poetic metaphor and more like technical instruction. Could these people have understood principles of physics, material science, or even cosmology that far exceeded what we attribute to them? The fused stone construction, the precise and anomalous composition of the artifacts, even the odd skeletal structures within the sarcophagus, all hint at a group with access to knowledge or techniques that allowed them to transcend the typical limitations of their era. Perhaps they mastered a form of ancient quantum entanglement for communication, or developed a sophisticated understanding of acoustics that allowed them to shape sound itself, or even manipulate gravity on a micro scale. You suppress the whimsical image of a Mayan scientist in a lab coat, adjusting tiny levers on a crystal oscillator. The silence in the chamber, the kind that absorbs sound, seems to amplify the weight of these profound questions. It's as if the very air itself is holding ancient secrets, just waiting for the right moment, the right mind, to unlock them. What if the decline, the so-called classic Maya collapse, wasn't a collapse at all for this group, but a deliberate withdrawal, a conscious choice to retreat into hidden places, safeguarding the unique knowledge from a world they perceived as no longer suitable for their practices? You feel a profound sense of awe, tinged with a delicious intellectual dread. This isn't just about recovering artifacts, it's about uncovering a worldview, a scientific paradigm that might have existed in parallel to, or even predated, our own. The tomb isn't just a grave, It's a time capsule, patiently waiting for us to develop the tools and the intellectual framework to understand its truly baffling contents. The ancient whispers are getting louder, revealing glimpses of a Mayan past far more extraordinary than any history book has ever dared to print. The tantalizing hints of lost knowledge and anomalous technology emanating from this tomb have, predictably, sparked a firestorm of debate within the archaeological and scientific communities. You can almost hear the virtual shouting matches echoing across academic journals and online forums. The initial findings, presented with extreme caution by Dr. Ramirez's team, have been met with a fascinating mix of excitement, skepticism, and outright incredulity. This is where the world of controversies and counter-theories truly comes alive. Often more dramatic than the quiet, dusty work of excavation itself. Mainstream historical fact emphasizes evidence-based interpretation, relying on established chronologies and comparative analysis with known sites. When an anomaly arises, the first instinct is to find a rational, terrestrial explanation within the existing framework. So, for every bewildering detail from this tomb, there's an immediate, often furious, attempt to normalize it. For example, some prominent Mayanists argue that the strange skeletal structures detected in the sarcophagus are likely the result of severe genetic abnormalities or rare diseases, perhaps exacerbated by dietary deficiencies or isolated breeding populations. They point to known cases of skeletal deformities in other ancient cultures. While plausible on its own, it struggles to explain the combination of anomalies. Then there's the issue of the peculiar grave goods, those crystalline spheres and metallic discs. Many skeptics propose they are merely naturally occurring geological formations, or perhaps highly unusual, yet explainable, mineral deposits that were mistakenly identified as artifacts. As for the impossibly sharp obsidian blades, some theorize they could be ceremonial versions, not meant for practical use, and that the unusual thinness is simply an extreme example of known Mayan flaking techniques. This is a common counter-theory to anything suggesting advanced ancient technology. It's just really good craftsmanship with simple tools. It's like arguing that the Mona Lisa was painted with a roller brush and some spray paint. The fused stone construction, which seems to defy traditional masonry, draws particularly sharp criticism. Counter-theories suggest it might be a highly localized effect of an unknown geological process, or a degradation of standard mortar over millennia that left behind peculiar residues, creating the illusion of fusion. One particularly vocal academic, Dr. Arthur Jenkins, who, let's be honest, probably just wants to publish his own book on the findings, has even proposed it's a previously unrecorded ancient form of lime plaster that, under specific, rare environmental conditions, vitrified over time. This is a quintessential quirky or fringe tidbit of academic bickering. Every field has its equivalent of a flat earth society when faced with truly paradigm-shifting evidence. Historians still argue whether academic conservatism in archaeology sometimes hinders the acceptance of truly groundbreaking or anomalous findings, preferring to fit new discoveries into existing models rather than challenge them. The debate around this tomb is a perfect example. Some scholars are openly wondering if the team is over-interpreting the data, swayed by the lure of sensational discoveries. Others, however, are pushing for more interdisciplinary research, suggesting that the answers might lie beyond traditional archaeological methods, perhaps in advanced material science, quantum physics, or even astrobiology. You observe the ongoing analysis, the careful recalibration of instruments, and the rigorous peer review process that all these findings must endure. It's a slow, often frustrating dance between groundbreaking revelation and ingrained skepticism. Yet, the sheer volume and consistency of the anomalies, from the skeletal forms to the construction methods, make it increasingly difficult for the counter-theories to hold up under scrutiny. The tomb itself seems to quietly mock their attempts to explain it away with conventional wisdom, its ancient secrets stubbornly clinging to their baffling nature. You feel a thrill, realizing you're witnessing the very frontier of knowledge, where accepted history is being rewritten, one baffling, controversial detail at a time. The world of archaeology, it seems, is far from settled. The intense academic skirmishes raging online and in hushed conference calls underscore the profound significance of this untouched Mayan tomb. Yet, amidst the debates and counter-theories, the tangible, immediate task remains: protecting this unparalleled discovery. You're now witnessing the meticulous protocols put in place to ensure the tomb and its perplexing contents are preserved for future generations. And for continued, even more advanced, study. This isn't just about putting a velvet robe around it. It's a full-spectrum effort to safeguard an enigma. Mainstream historical fact emphasizes the critical importance of archaeological preservation. Sites, once exposed, become vulnerable to environmental degradation, looting, and even unintentional damage from research itself. Think of how many ancient structures have slowly crumbled after being unearthed, or how precious artifacts have been lost to the black market. This tomb, with its unique internal environment and delicate contents, requires an even higher level of care, a veritable ancient site intensive care unit. The first step was stabilizing the internal environment. The unusual coolness and the peculiar, almost damp absorbing qualities of the chamber needed to be maintained. A sophisticated climate control system, operating almost silently, has been installed at the entrance, filtering the jungle air and ensuring consistent temperature and humidity levels within. This is a crucial, if perhaps mundane, aspect of protecting such a sensitive site. It's like putting a priceless painting in a hermetically sealed case. Only this painting is an entire, baffling, ancient room. Next, security has been drastically heightened. The exact location of the tomb remains a closely guarded secret, known only to a handful of trusted individuals and the local authorities. A perimeter has been established, patrolled by trained personnel, and equipped with advanced surveillance technology. This is not just to deter looters, a constant threat to archaeological sites globally, but also to prevent unauthorized access by overly zealous academics or conspiracy theorists who might cause inadvertent damage. You half expect to see laser grids, but thankfully, it's mostly just very stern people with clipboards. The removal of artifacts, even for scientific analysis, is proceeding with extreme caution. Every object, from the strange crystalline spheres to the metallic discs, is being meticulously documented, photographed, and then placed in inert, climate-controlled containers. This is standard archaeological practice. But here, the sensitivity is amplified by the sheer unknown nature of the materials. This leads to a quirky tidbit: one of the crystalline spheres, when briefly removed from the chamber for initial scanning, showed a very subtle, almost imperceptible increase in its low-frequency hum. It was so faint it could have been dismissed as a sensor glitch. But it raised questions about whether the objects are somehow active and react to changes in their environment. Historians still argue whether some ancient artifacts, particularly those with unusual properties or materials, should be left in situ, in their original place, to preserve their contextual integrity, or if scientific analysis justifies their removal. In this case, a balance is being struck, with only the most essential items being taken for study, and exact replicas being made for further contextual research. The murals, too delicate to move, are being preserved in situ through advanced conservation techniques, including the application of breathable, protective membranes to prevent further fading. The data being collected is vast: LiDAR scans, ground-penetrating radar, environmental sensors, molecular analysis of pigments, spectral analysis of the sarcophagus material, and countless photographic and video records. This immense dataset is being stored in multiple secure locations, ensuring that even if physical access to the tomb were ever lost, the information would endure. It's a digital fortress built around an ancient mystery. As you observe these painstaking efforts, you realize that protecting this tomb isn't just about preserving stones and bones. It's about preserving a gateway to a lost understanding, a potential paradigm shift in human history. The questions it raises are too profound, its anomalies too consistent, to be dismissed. The world is watching, waiting for the mysteries within its carefully guarded walls to finally yield their baffling truths. You stand in the hushed, carefully monitored chamber, the air cool and still, a silent testament to centuries of slumber. The sarcophagus remains a dark, impenetrable enigma, its secrets held tight within its smooth, obsidian-like embrace. The strange murals gaze back at you, their elongated figures and cryptic glyphs whispering of a knowledge that still eludes understanding. The bizarre artifacts, the humming crystals, the impossibly thin blades, the iridescent discs, sit safely in their protective cases, each a fragment of a larger, bewildering puzzle. The journey through this untouched Mayan tomb has been one of constant revelation and profound disorientation. We've peeled back layers of jungle and stone, only to find layers of mystery beneath. The mainstream historical facts about Mayan civilization, while still robust and fascinating, now feel incomplete, as if a crucial chapter was missing. This tomb offers tantalizing glimpses into what that missing chapter might contain: a people with an anomalous physical form, a unique language, and an understanding of material science and cosmology that defies our current historical narrative. It's like discovering that your favorite historical novel has an unwritten sequel. And it involves spaceships, the quirky tidbits and fringe theories that surfaced during this exploration, the demagnetized stone, the subtly shifting glyphs, the self-resonating crystals, the possibility of ancient geopolymers, are no longer just academic curiosities. They are integral pieces of a baffling mosaic, challenging us to expand our perceptions of what ancient civilizations were truly capable of. They force us to consider that perhaps our historical understanding is not merely incomplete, but fundamentally flawed in certain areas. Too quick to dismiss anything that doesn't fit neatly into established categories. Historians still argue whether an over-reliance on established paradigms sometimes blinds researchers to truly revolutionary discoveries. And this tomb seems destined to become a central case study in that very debate. The profound implications of this discovery are only just beginning to ripple through the academic world and beyond. What if these individuals were a distinct, perhaps reclusive, lineage of Maya who harbored knowledge passed down from an even earlier, more technologically advanced culture? Or could their unique characteristics point to something even more extraordinary? Something that challenges our understanding of human evolution or even our place in the cosmos. The questions are vast, unsettling, and exhilarating all at once. The tomb doesn't just ask who they were, but what they represent for the entirety of human history. The future of this site is one of ongoing, painstaking research. New technologies, yet to be invented, may one day provide the means to unlock the sarcophagus without damaging its contents. To fully translate the enigmatic glyphs, and to understand the properties of the baffling artifacts. This discovery serves as a powerful reminder that history is not a static collection of facts, but a living, breathing narrative, constantly subject to revision, especially when the jungle decides to reveal its deepest secrets. The quiet hum from the crystalline spheres seems to be a perpetual call to curiosity, a gentle invitation to keep searching, keep questioning, and keep dreaming of what else might lie hidden beneath the Earth's ancient skin. The world of archaeology has just cracked open a portal to a past far stranger and more complex than anyone could have imagined. And you, my friend, were there to witness the very first baffling glimpse.